while we were talking in the car, you were telling me a little bit about where you're from.
Hmm?
But if you want to expand on that a little bit, who you are, where you're from, stuff like that.
Yeah. I go. My name is Antonio, but I go by Black Cowboy. I've kind of gone by that name for like 3 or 4 years, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think at this point, 3 or 4 years, it just kind of stuck with me. Maybe longer, but yeah. I've lived in Philly for most of my life. I was born in New York, like Manhattan. My family was in the Bronx, but then we just like moved over here immediately after I was born. So, yeah, Philly's been my home most of my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
What made you start going by the name Black Cowboy? And what were you going by originally?
I had so many different names. I think I just went by because I was in other bands before, so I didn't have like a solo artist name thing.
Hmm.
And I was making my own music, but I started releasing it under my own full name.
Hmm.
But I think afterwards, and I don't want to tell you the name because I don't know if I know if you look in the Bandcamp, my first record it has a name on it, but it's just such, I don't know. I was never good at names. It was just such a weird name, and I don't know. I think I was talking about like cosmic, like universe stuff, and like yeah, just like
Hmm.
sort of like a string theory. I was just really into string theory at the time, and just other weird stuff like that. I'm not a quantum physicist. Just don't don't at me. But like the whole idea of like multiple universes and different possibilities and stuff
Yeah.
intrigued me. That sort of went into that old name. But yeah, after a while, I kind of dropped it because I could never like make it really work, and it just it's just kind of hard for people to pronounce or like understand. But well, my family, they're originally from Dominican Republic. They're immigrants from there,
Okay.
and I know the old thing, especially if like you understand like Dominican and black relations, like there's the whole idea of like are Dominican people black, and you know people with eyes are like, oh yeah, you are black, right?
Yeah.
Which we are, right? But
Yeah.
then there's the whole like, oh, I'm not black, I'm Dominican thing. But I identify as black firmly on that end.
Mhm.
And yeah, the cowboy stuff came down to, I don't know, I've always like appreciated like a lot of like country and bluegrass stuff. I've always liked like banjo music and just like different instruments like that. And it also makes me remember something a cousin of mine said. He had told me about this has to do with being in DR. Sorry, I'm just rambling
No,
stuff, but
no.
it has to do with me being in the Dominican Republic and how the main music over there is bachata music.
Yeah.
Like there's all types of music in the Caribbean, but bachata music is like is sort of the mainstay in DR. And my one uncle, he just described it as like Caribbean country music because
Cool.
yeah, because it's very like guitar centric, but the guitars are very like twangy and like honestly, I always say it is like country music, but with more of like a salsa backbeat or something like that. Like that. Like if you listen to it, you'll get it. You'll be like, especially with how the guys like singing about like drinking and like losing their partners and all this other random stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
like a heartbreak and everything. So
Yeah.
a lot of these are just country songs. So it's just kind of like I don't know. I just kind of put that together and I said, hey, this is a good name. So I just kind of went by that. I know I had to sort of like grow into it because even telling people like being Black Cowboy back in the day when I was saying that, some people would just look at me like all weird. But I don't know. I guess it's cool now. So I don't know. I live with
Yeah. I think it's pretty cool, especially the story behind it,
it.
combining your like black identity with your roots of being Dominican. How did that manifest in your music overall?
I think it's one of those things that just start to manifest more. Because honestly, at least like with music, I grew up like with a lot of the music my parents grew up with because it was just a lot of a lot of bachata and merengue, like Spanish music. I think younger me never really appreciated it, and I guess I wanted to just like be into very different stuff. I always wanted to be into alternative stuff, so I was always listening to I was listening to like a lot of pop punk. I was listening to especially in high school, I was listening to a lot of like, metal and like my old guitar teacher, he got me in like jazz fusion, so I was listening to a lot of that, a lot of progressive rock.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of my stuff early on was very like rock and prog and like jazz based. So that's especially like my early stuff is sort of like that, but also I think sorry, like the musical journey is kind of a whole thing. So you just
No,
have to
yeah.
go yeah.
Mm,
So around like
I'm not
yeah.
there.
So basically yeah, with like, playing guitar, it all started. I always tell people it all started because of Green Day, right?
Okay.
No, literally like what made me and what inspired me immediately to play guitar was the video for American Idiot. I don't know, it was just something about that, like where just watching all the other stuff on MTV, it never caught me. But then that video hit the rip hit and like just the imagery, it just like
Yeah.
I don't know, it hit me like a truck. and I immediately like went downstairs to like this old guitar that like my dad had because he just likes getting stuff out of places like he works in. He always like collects random crap, and yeah, it was like this old like green broken guitar. Like a bunch of the keys were missing. It was a really rusted string, so I just started like jamming on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I know he threw it out, but he always like had to string things like that. But eventually, I just asked my parents like, "Hey, I want to get guitar lessons." And yeah, my old guitar teacher, yeah, his name was Caesar Williams. He's a really cool guy. Yeah, he was into a lot of like classic rock. He loved Hendrix. Yeah, and he could play a lot of different things. He was a black man who loved like he could play like a lot of R&B. He could play country and bluegrass stuff. He taught me finger picking. He taught me a lot of these other things. He got me into fusion, and he's the guy who sort of convinced me like music is all relative because he could play a riff or some kind of chord progression, and then he'll change a note or he'll change the pace of it, and then he's like, okay, now it's country, now it's rock, now it's metal, now it's
Yeah.
jazz, and it kind of makes sense. Like once you actually really get in the theory part of it, you're like, oh yeah, he wasn't into that shit though. Like we just improvised a lot, just
Oh,
jam. All right, I'm in my like own stage of like telling like old stories and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, I love that.
yeah,
And it's good to like get a perspective on the type of not only person you are, but like the type of artist you are.
yeah. Just like getting into stuff like that, it really like inspired me. And also this one artist, I think this artist like shaped a lot of what made me want to start making music. Was this guy Dan Deacon? He's this indie electronic but experimental artist from Baltimore. And the best way I can describe his music is like a super maximalist, very like candy coated, like heavy electronic, but also just like I don't know, really really cool experimental music. He has like crazy live shows. I've always wanted to see him live. I think he's playing in Philly, but he's doing a lot of movie soundtracks now. But if you listen to his early stuff, it's very like he puts like 20 different like piano and like keyboard tracks on something, and he has like a player piano that basically like he basically has things and notes that he composes or like lines of melodies he composes that are actually impossible for people to play. So he has a player piano that's programmed to play all these like really complex like multi-chordal kind of thing. Yeah, no,
That's
it's great.
insane.
Yeah, no, this stuff is insane, and that's like for a while that's like in my mind I felt like okay, this is like the peak of music, and
Yeah.
this is like what I really wanted to make. So like my very early stuff, like it's not on like online or anything, but my first album I called it Visitor, so that's on Bandcamp.
Mhm.
It is very, very different from what I do now. It's mostly electronic based. I built it off of a free program I got on my computer
Mhm.
because I was recording a lot of stuff by that point. But yeah, I did sort of a similar method. I put like tons of like, I just threw everything at the wall. I have some songs to like you know, like you'll have like an electronic drum track or something like that. I put like 4 or 5 of them on top of each other and just tried to make it work for some of it. Some of it worked, some of it was just like it's a lot, but I don't know. That was sort of the first experiment. I released it. I still look back at it fondly and I'll listen to some of the stuff, but it's also like this is a lot. So yeah, after that, I think around that time I was getting into the band I was playing at the time. It was like a post hardcore band. And so I was playing bass in that band. I played in pop punk bands and stuff before, but around that time I was getting really more into like a lot of the heavy emo stuff. Like I was always sort of adjacent to it because like a lot of my friends grew up on emo music, you know, like Jimmy Eat World or like Silverstein bands like that.
Mhm.
But I really like explored more of it. I got really into the Wonder Years, like the Wonder. Yeah, they're like one of the best Philly bands ever,
Yeah.
honestly. Around that time, I also like went through like my own emo phase. I was going through like a lot of like personal stuff, so
Yeah.
I was feeling like a little depressed here and there. So it really helped carry me through that. And that was like my second record, Creepy Crawlies, which is it's a record themed around bugs.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
So
cool.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I had like this sort of this vision of combining because I always like played acoustic anyway. Like I
Mhm.
always played acoustic aside from the electronic stuff I made. I wanted to find a way to synthesize them.
Yeah.
So Creepy Crawlies is a lot of it is a lot more like electronic stuff like the first album, but it's like a little dialed back and has like more guitar on it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I combined sort of those parts. I think I took a break after that point, listening to some more you know, just listening more emo and like indie stuff and really just taking time to develop my next stuff. And a lot of that became Branches and Roots, which is more of a straightforward like indie emo rock album. And I really like it. It's like I think the one song I released on there was Sorry. And a lot of people really like that. I just sort of like posted it out there and everybody's just really like telling me how good it is, how like well written, how well mixed it is. And people are like, "Oh no, you've been working really hard on this." I could tell. That kind of gave me the motivation to keep going because I wasn't trying to quit music, but I thought like, oh, I don't know if like putting music out there is for me anymore. you know,
Hmm.
odd open mics and stuff here and there, but I guess I wasn't like confident enough like I am these days.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get out there by yourself and just like play songs about like I don't know, like the Ugly Barnacle and stuff. That was like one of the album songs
Yeah.
on People Crawl. Yeah, yeah. But after that, I kind of got more into that, and then the record after that was Breathe, and I wanted to take a departure from that. I was getting more into like the R&B side of things because this is sort of like where we're getting to now. Um, like where I lived, I was living in Northern Liberties at the time,
Mhm.
and at that point, I was going out to open mics and stuff like out in West Philly, out like in different parts. I don't think I ever found my footing until I met this one guy from the band Branch Station. Yeah, the guy he goes by Eyes. Like, shouts out to Eyes, by the way. Branch Station, love you guys. You guys are amazing. But he was talking about like setting up this open mic in this area that would be like more live bands because a lot of these open mics back then were, and this is a few years ago. Back then, it wasn't like live bands or like live musicians. It would just be people playing like the tracks that they had like behind them, or maybe somebody with a guitar. Like actually, even rarely it was like with a guitar with some of these open mics because it was like more like R&B and like hip hop based stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just like the one guy with a guitar, like just playing stuff. People were like, "Oh yeah, I get it. It's I see where you're
It
at."
like
Yeah,
wasn't your crowd.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I told me about this place, Second Street Music. Shouts out to Second Street Music. And I found out that it was like literally like a 5 minute walk from my house. They do a jam every Tuesday, and he said, "Yeah, just come out." I came out like the first time, and I got cooked immediately.
Oh.
Cause no, cause the thing I didn't realize is all these. Cause I thought I was pretty good with guitar. I knew like
Hmm.
my some theory. I knew some chords, but these guys were like actual performing musicians.
Hmm.
Like R&B jazz guys. Like I got guys who play in the church and stuff. Guys who like
Wow.
work, and this is their job.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, play this one song or that song." And I was like, "Oh, I know like a major seven chord. That's about it."
Yeah.
So I got cooked immediately. I stayed away for a month, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, I just gotta practice. I gotta actually like get better at this.
Yeah.
I just kept coming back and slowly, and a lot of people over there will tell you too, like, because it's sort of a very tight knit kind of family thing. You can kind of go there and people will know you, especially if you show up, keep trying,
Yeah.
keep working with. You will become a better musician playing with a lot of these guys because
Yeah.
we all just like, even if like you barely know, any of like these like weird chords or theory, you understand how to work with a band, how to
Yeah.
actually, play off of people, how to like take somebody's look like as like okay, take a solo or like hey, cut back or hey, we're gonna switch up now.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are like the little subtle things that you can't really do in a bedroom. And that's why I always encourage everybody, like, hey, go out to your jam sessions. Even if you suck, just play like chords, play rhythm. You can still like have an impact. That's always important, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, around that time, I was really getting more into R&B guitar and back into the hip hop side of things. So that's where the one EP Breathe came out, and I think somebody described it as like very trip hop and like R&B heavy. I was getting more into like tabby guitar stuff. I barely do it now, but
Mhm.
I listen to a lot of if you know of that Young, she's really nobody don't that sucks. So I was gonna say I'll show you a little later. Yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, she's this amazing guitarist. She does a lot of like very tappy like alternate tuning stuff, but it's like so beautiful. It's not like done to just be like show offy.
Yeah.
Like the songs are like really well made, and you're like, oh okay, I feel it.
Yeah.
Like yeah, I was really inspired by her stuff. I was inspired by just like a lot of hip hop and at that time. And from there, it's been a journey. I've been just releasing more stuff lately. I have more EPs and albums coming out, and that's sort
Okay.
of what brings me to now. Because in the last like year and a half, I was more into the folk punk scene, and actually have I'm sorry, this is the point where we're actually gonna get to
Okay.
now. Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. Basically, I was just posting a lot of my acoustic stuff online, just
Hmm.
stuff I've been playing, and stuff where I was like, hey, this is kind of cool, or stuff that didn't quite sound like hip hop or like didn't quite sound like R&B or didn't quite sound like rock, like kind of sounded country, but just sort of was all a mix of it.
Yeah.
And this one guy, uh, yeah, he goes by the Converse Kid, but his name's Billy. Like, shouts out to Converse Kid. Like, yeah, yeah, great guy, yeah, awesome dude. He like was playing a lot of like folk punk shows or with a lot of these bands, and he sent like one of my videos over to yeah, like God, like yeah, you know them, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, or an RJ. You guys are great, by the way, love y'all. But yeah, they invited me to play a show. I just started playing a bunch of shows with these guys and just getting into the vibe of that. And I think the direction I'm starting to take now is more on the folk side, or just more on like sort of on the country folk side, but more like just more like acoustically based, like natural instruments.
Yeah.
So look out for that. and thank you for listening to my long story.
Yeah,
I just have to like kind of let that all out because I'm like, yeah, I just
it's a
I've
long
been
journey.
I've been playing for a long time.
Yeah. But I think, what you said about going to like jam sessions and stuff like that to become a better musician and like your whole journey, I think is important to hear about,
Mm.
especially for somebody like me who I'm learning bass, not very good at it.
No, you'll get better.
But yeah, so it's inspirational
Yeah.
in a way. Yeah. But I'm curious about you said you know like a little bit of theory. Were you like for most of this were you just kind of like fucking around until you got better or did you like sit down and crack the books open?
Ugh, that's a good question because I think it's a maybe a mix because when
Hmm.
my old guitar teacher he never taught me theory, and that's the thing. It's like I know theory can be this like really scary thing to a lot of people,
Yeah.
and I know the other side of it is like, oh, if I do that, that's gonna take like the spirit of soul out. It's like I get that.
Hmm.
You don't want to be like in a place where this is boxing you in and cutting off your actual creative stuff or what you feel like, hey, this is actually a thing.
Yeah.
But one thing I found over the years is first learning like scales and chords. Like I'm sorry, what kind of got me on that journey was with my guitar teacher. He was an awesome guy, but sometimes he would go be out sick like naturally,
Yeah.
but they still have an understudy for the lesson. The one dude who like was an under like not an understudy, but the substitute was this guy Winston, and this guy was like a hardcore jazz theory guy.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh yeah, what Caesar taught you." I show him a few things, and he's like, "Okay, you know what that means?" I'm like, "Oop." He's like, "Okay," and he explained certain things, and like nice dude, but I could tell he was like
Yeah.
because if you ever meet like old like working musicians or like jazz musicians, they're very like, okay, if you can't play, you can't play, and
Mm.
you either gotta
Yeah.
fix that or you gotta like step off the stage. That's
Yeah.
kind of yeah, and that's what kind of makes a lot of these guys great because it's like the rigorous work. But
Hmm.
he taught me, and the first step I always tell people is learn the relationship between chords and like yeah, especially guitar chords and like scales, right?
Yeah.
Because guitar like the chords are actually made up of notes in the scale. Like a major chord is off of the major scale, and that's the first note, the third note, and the fifth note. Right? If you
Hmm.
want to do a major seven, that's the first, third, fifth, and seventh.
Yeah.
And like the ninth, you add like the ninth note, which is like literally like after the octave, like the second note, they call it the ninth note to kind of distinguish it because a suspended second is a different thing, and that's yeah,
Complicated.
yeah.
Yeah.
When you get into that, that's where it gets like kind of funny. But more recently, I'm starting to get into it, but it can be hard to grasp because sometimes you are just literally writing things down. And even in like my band I have now, it's like a three piece. Like the bassist I'm working with, Jake, I met him through a Second Street. Like dude's an amazing bassist. Like I know he hates like when I say that because he's just humble like a bassist is.
Yeah.
But like honestly, amazing dude, but like super like knowledgeable about theory. Like he's super flexible and chill though, but he's like, oh yeah, no, if you do this, this, and this, and he would just teach me certain things. I'm like, oh, you know what? That's starting to make sense.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like it's still a process because it's theory.
Yeah.
It's not music fact. Don't let anybody say like, oh, that's supposed to be this note if it feels right for you. Because sometimes the note
Yeah.
should be like something that might sound wrong in those places. Or sometimes you can like
Right.
switch up a chord and like put a chord that's not supposed to. If
Yeah.
you listen to like a lot of R&B, like we were listening to D'Angelo earlier, like a lot of like the notes in a lot of those songs do some of them like can be theoretically sound, but some of them the chords can be like set up in a way where or like people like Jill Scott or Erykah Badu, like
Yeah.
certain songs are just like they kind of threw all these together and were like jamming it out and it just felt good.
Yeah.
And these artists were so good they could just kind of make it work through their music because theoretically it may not make sense unless like you really like jump through some mental hoops for it,
Hmm.
but it still works. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. Yeah, it's good to learn it just to know some of the basic stuff, and maybe if you're like, oh, I want to make the song a little more maybe sophisticated or get an idea here of making it bigger than it already is. But honestly, if you're a person who's like, look, I know like six chords, I use that, I write all my music, and I'm happy, then that's all you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's like the raw you, and I think nobody should take that away.
Yeah. So you think that it's important to have both. Know a little bit of theory, but also don't be afraid to deviate from that
Yeah.
theory.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, even like listening to because jazz fusion is a thing where okay, a lot of it can be theory wise, but when I was listening to metal, I listened to a lot of like very extreme metal, like the Blast Beast, like a lot of deathcore stuff, like a lot of like one of my favorite bands is the Red Chord, and those guitarists can like play all these crazy things, but they use like a lot of like chromatic and like diminished notes. So chromatic is like every note in the scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even then, it's like they make it work because it's like not the cacophony, but like the way a lot of these notes clash and like almost like fight amongst each other. That's the vibe that you get with a lot of this
Hmm.
very heavy like metal stuff. It's supposed to sound like angry and mean and just kind of like how do you call it? Kind of combative. It's supposed to sound that way because that's the
Yeah.
vibe of the genre.
Yeah.
Even some country songs, they use like weird odd notes that shouldn't work in like whatever scale they're in, but they kind of work like with the vibe of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like we touched on it a little bit, but I just want to circle back a little
Oh
bit.
yeah.
The you mentioned a lot of different types of
Yeah.
music. You
Yeah.
listen to music. It
Music
doesn't
is
matter
fun.
what it is. Yeah. How does that, because I went back into your Bandcamp and I listened to a little bit of your music.
Oh
Yeah, of
no.
course I did.
No. Wait, what did you listen to? I gotta ask.
I don't even remember the
It's so
names.
it's
Yeah, I
okay.
just was like, let me get a good idea. I've listened to your song about oh my god, it's the Invincible song, and you played it
Oh
when I
yeah.
first met you,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
was like obsessed with it. And one of the questions
Oh,
I
thank
wanted
you.
to ask about that song too is how animation and media does it influence your like songwriting ever, other than that one time?
I No, you know what? That is a great question.
Thank you.
No, that is a no, because like you're asking me if like animation media does influence.
Hmm.
I feel like it's always been something that's been in the backdrop because even as a kid, I've always wanted to like make soundtracks for like shows and movies, or even like different like yeah, different shows or stories I would hear like in my mind. I would have like ideas for what the music would be. That's actually part of my dream, like be able to make a soundtrack for a movie or or even a game and stuff.
Hmm.
That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, no, a lot of video game music has like been sort of always at the forefront. I watch a lot of anime, like obviously, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, a lot of like anime music is like super great. And I think especially in high school, I watched like a lot of. I know everybody was watching like Naruto and Bleach and stuff, and those are good shows. But I actually watched a lot of like slice of life anime, just
Okay.
like about like people going to school or like people just doing regular shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite ones is this. You can find it on YouTube even. It's called the Beck Mongolian Chop Squad.
Oh.
It's one of those animes that just has a weird name that has nothing to do with the show,
Okay.
but it's literally a show about these guys just starting a band.
Oh.
Yeah, it's basically like these guys are starting a band, and it's like in Japan, but it's like it feels like, especially now playing in bands, it feels like, oh yeah, this is just how a band is. You have like the clashes with people like at practice. The first episode, this one band's playing, the sound cuts out, and it's like 5-10 minutes of them trying to get it working while the crowd is like just losing patience and getting annoyed
Yeah.
at them and
Yeah.
stuff. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, no, this is exactly how it is. So no, a lot of yeah, a lot of like Japanese rock. It's something I really want to dive a lot more into because one of my favorite bands for that is called The Pillows. They're really good.
Pillows.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
genre? Like what's
It's definitely like a rock based thing, but
okay.
they're from this anime Fooly Cooly FLCO.
I know what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got like all three of their albums from the whole series. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, they make amazing music. Honestly, like I feel like I want to make a lot more stuff like that if I made like straightforward rock. But yeah, there's a lot of good energy and a lot of well, a lot of J rock is pretty sick. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's like I kind of wanted to ask if you listen to J Rock because I feel like that goes into what you were talking about
Mm.
with playing with music. I feel like when I listen to J Rock, the way that they do the music
Mm.
sounds very different. The way that they play the chords,
No, that's true.
just yeah.
Like even like theory on those ends, like there's like different notes and different chord progressions that tend to be more common in J rock than in like American music. That's why it
Yeah.
sounds like the way it is. They'll like go to like certain chords, like use like a dominant fifth or something here, where we would use like the fourth or like the third. Or it's there's tons of videos that explain it way better than I do.
Yeah.
But people are like literally like, oh yeah, there's different, and there's just different scales. There's a
Yeah.
Harajoshi scale, which is like a form of the pentatonic where they will like take out like certain notes and shit.
Huh.
Yeah, yeah. There's different Japanese scale and just theory in different countries is great. I was
Yeah.
recently getting into wait, have you ever heard of a King Gizzard and Lizard
Yeah.
Wizard?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I was really getting into a lot of their stuff because they use a lot of like microtonal stuff, and that's
Mhm.
something like I want to get more into in the future. But those guitars are expensive, and I don't got time. But
Yeah.
but that's like the notes in between like your traditional notes, right? Like
Mm.
A B C D C sharp and everything. It's the stuff in between all the sharps and the flats and
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
Yeah. So that's why, like, if you ever see a microtone guitar, they have like weird, like mini frets all over the place. You can
Yeah.
like adjust it. Like King Gizzard for some of their albums, they use like microtonal stuff. So that's why it
Okay.
sounds like, like a lot of like Arabic music uses that. Like a
Yeah.
lot of a lot of like Indian music uses it. So it's like the notes in between that gives it a very like different spice and flavor that
Yeah.
you don't always like realize, but it's like no, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to get a little deeper into
Mm.
your music and your
Yeah.
like songwriting process. How do you go about writing songs and working that into
Mm.
instrumentation on top of that?
A lot of times it's really started with I always usually started with guitar first or like melody first.
Yeah.
Like yeah, I usually would start on that and then for a long time I would just write instrumental tracks and stuff. I think it was like an online music message board I was on and somebody like commented like, "Oh yeah, sometimes I'll write like the backing parts of a song, like chords and everything, and then I'll just like mumble some words or just like sing a melody and then make words fit there." And I realized, like, look, some artists just kind of do that. Like the guy from Weezer does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rivers Cuomo does that. The band, yes, they're singers. Not kind of notorious for like just putting random words in places because they kind of sound good and the songs don't really make sense, but it's about how he sings and he fits into the band.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, let me make that work. And I could do it like that, but there's also a part of me that's like, I want to put more thought in my songwriting. I want to really make sure that I'm making something meaningful. I always feel like every song I have is like a child to me. I want every song to like have a certain feeling, or at least for me, like with music, I always have like scenes in my mind when I'm making a song.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, okay, sometimes I just have this scene that comes to me while I'm playing something, and I might not even know what the song is about. But then eventually, as I write stuff, as I figure it out, I'm like, okay, this is the idea I'm having here, and this is what's going on here. But even for like a lot of the guitar stuff, like I like it was on my old phone, but I kind of just had a habit of just anytime I heard anything that like made me go like, just surprise me. And this is the advice I always give people. It's like if you're just playing, literally just play. If something sounds good that you're playing, right? Or if you even just get that melody or something in your head, record it. Just record it. It doesn't even need to be something you make that week. I have songs that weren't like there's one song on Breathe. It's called Energy. I had that riff like in the vault for like 12 years. I made that back in like 2012.
Whoa.
Yeah, I just made that back in 2012. I like, kept trying to work it and work it and work it, and eventually I just kind of one day it was just kind of right where I like played it. I was like, you know what, this is where it's meant to be. Yeah, but I have some songs that are still in the vault, stuff that's still being worked on, and like don't be afraid to sleep on your songs. I was actually just talking to this about like that one musician I was talking to last night. I feel like, and it's not saying like, oh, like young kids don't get it. Like plenty of young kids do, but I feel like because of how TikTok is, or like how like sort of TikTok talkification of music is,
Yeah.
it it puts a lot of pressure on young creators to make every song they release like the viral hit.
Yeah.
So they kind of prioritize like, hey, what's like catchy or what's something I can make quick or just like easily that's going to like put it out there soon because if I don't do it now, then maybe my chance will never get.
Yeah.
I get it, but making music that can be viral, I always think there's sort of a price to pay with that because then the fact of the matter is you're going to get a lot of fans who are there for the viral part. And not saying you can't, and if you start out with like being just a viral hit, if like that's your first song and that becomes a hit,
Mm-hmm.
you better make something that's like better, but like not too far away from that.
Yeah.
That's the way it is because you gotta make something that doesn't deviate, but like it's better or just like different. And even then, you're still gonna have people saying, "Yeah, but it's not that first song." It's like, no, this song was better, man. Like, or no, you gotta try again.
Yeah.
This is why I always say, at least for me, it's like I don't even care if I never get viral with my shit. Like, I want to build enough of like a good fan base or like enough people through the work that I have, or even enough of a body of work where people could be like, "Hey, if there is a viral hit or something like that, cool." You'll have those fans who like they'll come to your concert, hear the one song, and leave.
Yeah.
Fine, yeah, they exist. But then people will be like, okay, I like this song. Let me see what else he has, and then they'll be like, oh wait, there's like a whole like library of this stuff, and it can, like with my stuff, it can kind of stretch in different ways, and I feel like you can become a better artist that way by just like prioritizing your artistic growth and like trying to put something out as soon as possible. That's why I always say like with writing songs, you ever come up with a good idea, sleep on it. Come up with a good idea, record that, play it a little, really get into it, and sleep on it. if you wake up tomorrow and that's still gas, or like even the thing you recorded, if it's still good, if it's still
Hmm.
like, okay, no, I got this, keep at it.
Okay.
If you record something, and especially recording wise, if you play and record stuff and you're really into it, sometimes you can go to sleep, wake up, and realize like, oh, this doesn't sound as good, or you know what, it's missing something, or you know what, it's not there yet.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get so into like the high of, oh, I came up with a good idea, that you forget to develop it or just take your time and just work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you think that the TikTokification of the music industry kind of stops musicians from wanting to, or potential musicians to want to release their music?
I think in some ways it can. It really depends on the person, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, like I think like I was saying before, it's sorry, knowing a lot of knowing how I was as a kid with my music, as much as like even if I was coming up with stuff where people were like, hey, this is pretty good, this has potential, I was still like really shy and I didn't like showing off any music. I hated like when my mom would like bring out my guitar and ask me to play something. I didn't even like playing around my family. So a lot of musicians I know can be like a little sensitive to that stuff, right? A lot of amazing artists I know have like such great work or can be like amazing like, people out there, but they don't even like showing their face. And you know, there's a reason why a number of people I know don't even have a digital footprint, and it's just this idea of, oh, I don't want the hassle of having to be an online personality because you're just doing extra work there.
Yeah.
And the people who, if you like Lady Gaga, if you like, artists like Sabrina Carpenter, you want to like write pop music, I can definitely see you wanting the spotlight. But I think like this insistence on you having to like put your face out there and do all this other stuff, it can be a lot for a lot of people. It can be really discouraging for anybody who wants to just play music for music's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Sprouts.
Yeah. No, Sprouts is I always say it's only a song about gardening, nothing else. But it's not. It's
Yeah.
it's about a situationship that kind of went south.
Hmm.
And it's sort of a situation where we had gone out like a few times, we hung out, like I met this person's friends at a certain point, but we would just talk a lot. And it was a thing where we were like, okay, let's be friends or let's like be in that kind of nebulous state of this and that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was something where like communication wise things would be okay for a while, but a little like a little like intense with communication, but then we'd get into an argument and then we'd cut each other off and then come back at some point and it would be just sort of this back and forth thing until like it just kind of ended and
Yeah.
like we yeah like yeah it had to kind of end the way it did and yeah it was something where I think back on it and just identify like the Sprouts as a song of it's sort of a song about the futility in those situations and how things sort of like fall apart like that, but having a hard time accepting like that this is gonna end or that this is the
Yeah.
end of it. It's a song about grieving. It's a song about grief on that end.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you would say that you write more conversational pieces than anything.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of my like even like I think I explained like with the song or no the album titles and stuff.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like Branches and Roots, it was originally gonna be called Friends and Family. It
Yeah.
is sort of like conversations or like yeah, different conversations I guess in my mind with people like in my family, people like a lot of my friends, people who I know who did through certain things and yeah, a lot of those songs are I guess are like pretty revealing in terms of who they're talking to and I always like to I always like people being able to take a song on and just say or just identify like, hey, this is how I relate to it, or this is what I get from it. I never try
Yeah.
to say like, oh, the song is specifically about this. Even like with Sprouts, if you take something different from that, you should.
Yeah.
Music is a personal experience, and it's the emotional part that makes you resonate with it.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.